What's up, guys? Pete from the basement here in the Dark Horse booth with Paul Tobin, the creator of Colder. You guys remember when we reviewed this book when it first came out? Basically, to give you a rundown, it's the story of Declan, who is a mentally ill patient who comes across this really just sick, twisted villain named Nimble Jack, who kind of feeds off of like human brainwaves and like basically like their insanity. The worse they get, the better he is. So he curses Declan to simply get colder, like literally like winter is existing in him, which would really suck for me because I like summer. Paul, how did you come up with this, and thank you for being on the show in the first place?
Well, insanity has always been like a thing for me, and so like the perception of the world is so screwed up because when our senses are just human senses, don't really know what's going on, and I think that's fascinating. So there could be like worlds hidden, and I've been reading about early LSD experiments, which are just nuts. They're just nuts because nobody really cared about insane patients at that time, like insane asylums or things like that. So like a lot of early drug testing, LSD was one of them, but a lot of early drugs. What they did was just kind of just jack insane patients full of it. And of course they didn't know like, you know, how much we should give or things like that. So like in the early days, like if you think in the terms of the 60s when people were tripping and having fun and like, woo, the world is crazy, they were taking 1/10 the amount that most mental patients were getting injected with. So considered 10 times crazier. And it's like, well, what perception opens at that point? Like what do we see at that point? And I think it's fascinating to then say, and those warped, bizarre perceptions that we have, are they the ones that are real? You know, is that like the everyday life? Is that the truly warped perception? And for me, part of the colder part was the aspect of like the shutting down of the brain. Like, I think, you know, we all know like as we die, when we get aced or something, our body gets colder. That's what happens. But if the brain gets colder, that's insanity too, and it affects you. And so like the whole aspect of that was part of it. Because life is seen as a warm, wonderful thing, and getting colder is death. So, and I like that ticking down aspect of it.
One of the coolest things that really drove me into it, as you said, like the more these people like kind of freak out, their perception opens up, and that had like this very Lovecraftian feel to me. Like they're basically, they don't want to see this, and they're not really insane. They just have been privileged to something that humans never should have seen. And that was what really drew me in. I was really into that. And you never kind of like, you learn what Nimble Jack is. No spoilers for this one. Go read the book. But at the same time, like he's not really like a demon or anything. He's just a thing. Like how did you come up with him specifically?
Well, that was me and Juan Ferreira, the artist, who is just wonderful. Kind of came up with him together. And I almost don't ever really want him explained, because that to me, I've seen so many horror movies or, you know, comics where they have like this good atmosphere, good mood, like really amazing. And then they start to delineate exactly what is everything. And that's the mystery is gone at that point. And to me, like the fear of the unknown is a huge part of that. Because I mean, if you're scared, sometimes it's like, oh, what's in the closet? Well, it's this one monster who's from this one world. He's got a brother named Joe, and you know, at this point, it starts to like, the human mind can start to compartmentalize and go, okay, it's a monster. Like let's say it's Cthulhu. You mentioned, you know, I'm dead, but at least I know what's going on. You know, it takes the horror away from it. So Nimble Jack and the what we call the hungry world or the nightmare world, we're going to kind of stay pretty silent on it. You get to see some more of it in the second art, the new villain called Swivel and his gig. You sort of can start to understand where it's going from. But as far as spelling out, you know, this world is called, you know, Johnstown or whatever, we're never really going to do that, because I love the aspect of not knowing, because that to me is what horror is. I'm really influenced by a lot of the Japanese and Korean horror films, and those to me, they don't explain things. It's like that water dripping from the ceiling where there's no leak. You know, it's creepy, and it, just like a drip of water becomes something that can freak you out. And if you then say, oh, by the way, it's this one demon that's got a thimble full of water and he's squeezing it out, it's like, well, then it's just a jerk up in the ceiling, you know, and it's not as scary.
So how long before we have to wait for the sequel of Colder? When's it coming out?
Not long at all. October 22nd, the first issue is out. I've already got a physical copy of the comic myself. So yeah, we're almost there. It's not long at all. Yeah, and Juan is working on, I believe, the third issue right now, and we had to we pushed it back a little bit because Juan's my artist on the Prometheus thing for Dark Horse, and so we wanted to finish Prometheus. But yeah, the 22nd. Yeah, we're almost there.
That's fantastic. I actually forgot you write Prometheus. We've been reviewing that as well, and well done on that, too. Paul, thank you for being with us, man. Lots of luck with Colder. We look forward to reviewing it just in time for Halloween, guys, so make sure you go pick that up, and make sure you keep tuning into the Pete's Basement Show, and we'll have that reviewed once it's out. Enjoy the rest of the show, man. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Awesome. And it can't just be that we're all addicted to Facebook.
Well, I'm not on Facebook at all.
So there you go.
Stay the hell away from that. That is poison for me.